today with APA Insurance. On the bench today, folks, trying to get some sanity back in effect. Former Member of Parliament for Runyenjes, Njeru Kathangu is in the house. Right next to him, former Minister Musikari Kombo. And right next to him, former Member of Parliament Gatundu North, Patrick Muiruri.
An Assistant Minister for Agriculture.
Oh, hello. There we go. Assistant Minister Agriculture.
Yes.
Did you serve together? Do you at the same time?
Yes.
Ah, fantastic. So let me start with you, Waziri. The events of the last couple of weeks. Your thoughts, what do you think?
Very bad. During our times, we were 210 members of parliament. Within us, there were cabinet ministers, assistant ministers, and the members of parliament. We were always talking. We talked. We interacted. There were different parties. There was KANU itself, as the government, Democratic Party, SDP, Ford Kenya, Safina. There were many of them, just like now. But we were always talking. What angers me now is that these people are not talking. And when they talk, is chest thumping, kujivuna, kutisha wengine. This is not leadership. It isn't leadership. People must always talk. Leaders must always talk. De Klerk himself in South Africa had Mandela in prison for 27 years.
Yeah.
They talked. What is this that Raila cannot talk directly to President Ruto? Ruto has not been in prison for 27 years like by vice versa. They must talk. There are hardliners who don't want them to talk. When people are not talking, Jeff, even at your home, what happens? Things go wrong. So personally, I don't like what is going on.
Yeah,
It's high time that President Ruto and the Raila sat down. They have massive followers. 6 million people voted for President Ruto. 5.8 million people voted for Raila, according to what we are told by IBC. Right or wrong, although it's disputed. But there are 8 million other people who did not vote. So the country is divided, and the country must go back together. This term chasing and the rest of it, and the mass action, destruction of properties and violence and so forth, is going to lead us into a terrible situation.
Do you agree, Waziri? Do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Patrick has hit the nail on the head. The demonstrations, the mandamanos, and the polarized positions are not helping this country at all. Of course, people will say constitutionally we are allowed to demonstrate. But let it be, if it's not peaceful. Jeff, those fellows that have died because of these fracases, if you woke them up today and asked, what would you prefer, death or unga, cheap unga, death or cheap petrol? They will tell you, I prefer to be alive and not to be dead. Yeah?
Yeah.
So whatever we are doing, and these deaths are coming about because of the polarized positions that the leaders have taken. As Patrick said, if you do not talk to each other, you get nowhere.
Yeah.
And every person, a leader in the home or wherever you are, you must be prepared to say, hold on, what is the other person saying? Can I listen? Can we talk? And when you talk, you do find solutions to our problems.
Mheshimiwa, let me ask you this. 7 months after the elections, 7 months, we haven't been able to move on.
Yes.
What is wrong with us?
What is wrong is this, Jeff, that our country has not appreciated the word government. Government has three arms. And these three arms, one of them is parliament. And the parliament is made up of the opposition and those that have formed the government. What that means is this, that each one member in that parliament has responsibility and obligation to make sure that they mobilize society for unity and peace. Each one of them. When it comes to all the political parties in that parliament, they are supposed to consult each other, discuss issues about even their manifestos, that we believed that this cup should be shared in this manner. The other one says no, until they reach some agreement. In this country, when people have been elected, they think they take all, and that they are the almighties, and therefore none other should have or share a voice with them. It is wrong. So for 7 months, that has been maintained, and therefore we cannot reach or achieve anything. What I wonder is this. Don't we see we have come a long way? We were all there. You know, and when we are looking at the two sides, that is the opposition parties and the government party, is that we have been there. They have seen the pain that we went through for so many years. They cannot repeat that and tell us to go back again to where we came from. We went for mass action and demonstrations to have constitutional changes here. And they were there. They cannot come again and refuse to give Kenyans what they want. You know, Jeff, we have got 45 communities in this country. And those communities are all not participating in whatever is happening today. Those that are participating are about 6 tribes in Kenya. You know, these tribes in Kenya, the 6 tribes have got about 15 million people. We have 50 million men, and we cannot be exposed to violence and conflicts and hatred simply because 2 people do not agree. And what I am asking my brother Raila and our friend Ruto is to appreciate that the whole country is watching their lips. We are looking at your body language, and whatever your body language says is what your followers do. If you are saying you cannot listen to each other, we also won't listen to each other. We cannot achieve anything here. And therefore, you need to meet purposely to talk about how does your country get united, how does your country achieve economic development, how does your country achieve peace. Then you can come back and tell us who disagreed. Then we can deal with him.
Waziri, let me ask you this. It seems like deja vu to a lot of political experts. Like we've been here before. You know, 2007, 2008, we called it coalition government. 2018, we called it handshake. Now we're hearing a term called bipartisan. Tomato, I mean.
No, but we've been here before. Right from 1992, when the clamor for multipartyism was on, we did what is, we went into the streets and demonstrated and so on. But by that time, we were looking for a two-party system. We were looking to restore multipartyism that had existed at independence. So we must start trusting them, and when we disagree, we find ways of making sure that we correct them in a manner that not more lives are lost. And I think for me that's the way forward.
Waziri, already there's disagreement about the way forward. You talk about the way forward. There's disagreement about the way forward. This is bipartisan. The president insists it has to go through parliament. Former Prime Minister says, you know what, I want something akin to what happened in the Kofi Annan talks, 2007, 2008. I mean, where are we going with this?
We must be candid and look at where things are. Look at the parliament itself. From the year 2007, when I left parliament with my colleagues here, there came some accusations that we had increased our salaries. Kenyans were very, very angry. I remember in the evening, a man that is called Boru from Muranga, he would, from 10 o'clock to about 12 o'clock, that these members are greedy, they have increased their salaries, they have mortgages, they are stealing CDF money, they have sent themselves off with 1.5 million shillings, all those accusations. When it came to the elections, like in central Kenya, only a few of us remained. I remember it was only Martha Karua, Peter Kenneth, Uhuru himself, just about 3 or 4. All of us were thrown out because of that accusation, true or wrong. But then what happened thereafter is that things changed. Members of parliament are now the ones who are there in the parliament, like the ones, and I don't want to mention them, but it is true that you got to have a lot of money to be elected to parliament, by hook or crook. The rules that were there during your Georgia's time that you cannot spend a certain amount of money are no longer there. So you must be well armed with a lot of money to be elected a member of parliament. In between, you look at some of them, they are of dubious characters. I've seen a member of parliament shoot somebody dead somewhere in Western. During the fracas of the elections, he's elected, nobody cares. So the kind of members of parliament we have now, and I have no quarrel with them, there's a problem there. So when now the president says the solution will come out of parliament over this impasse now, I don't see that as a solution. So I see it as a way whereby, as the IPPG, people, non-partisans, be involved in these discussions and the demands by the opposition, Mheshimiwa Raila Oginga Odinga. He has issues. But then the government is not responding to these issues. Instead of responding, they go to church, there are insults, a lot of time wasted. So this is not the way forward. Now, the way forward in this country is simply knowing that your brother is your brother. Raila is a brother to Ruto. They have worked together. They know one another very well. During Kibaki's time, President Kibaki, who we highly respect, Kibaki would summon all members of parliament, irrespective of the party you belong. President Kibaki would sit down there himself, personally, taking notes in his own handwriting. And he would tell us, this is Mr. Murage, control of the State House. Do you want him here? If you don't, I'll ask him to leave. So we tell, okay, fine, let him remain. Kibaki would take the whole morning listening to everybody, every corner of this country, and take notes. And then, so there were people who were talking. But now in this government, the opposition and the government, they are not talking. They are simply thumb-chasing. This thumb-chasing and intimidations and the threats must come to an end.
Yeah.
So it angers me that I come from Kiabu myself. Some of these people are my younger brothers, and I like them, because like Ishongwa, I respect him, because Ishongwa will pick up my phone and we talk. But they must be corrected. They must be corrected that it doesn't augur well to do what is going on now, that we are going to do that, and it is done. See, I will come like now the Mamagina's farm, because I come from Gatuna myself, and I know Kenyatta family.
Yeah.
I know every property is registered under Mamagina Kenyatta, including that farm. When you have some people doing what you already knew and is now public domain, that people are hired, given by machete, and then they go and do all that damage that you saw, they have no. There's also another offense called cruelty to animals. You see the way those goats were dragged, and all that painful to animals themselves. Then we wonder all this. And there is the police station there. They don't keep off. Never, Jeff, have we ever seen the police just watch a crime being committed. Correct. And they watch and it happens, and somebody gets away with it. So the police should be totally neutral. Even these demonstrations, and we have had them before ourselves. We conducted demonstrations. It was done without supervision. But we were careful not to damage people's properties and the rest of it. But now, even now, the damages were, the demonstrations earlier on were very peaceful. Absolutely. Until the police came in. The moment you bring in the police with these demonstrations, and the people want to pass this road, the police say no. They are tear guys and the rest. So it's promoting things are not right. The police should keep off from these demonstrations. But the most important thing, Jeff, is for these two people, these two leaders, the president himself and the rider to sit down. This petition, the problem will come out from Parliament. I don't see it happening. Because those people in Parliament, we know them, and we have seen them, we have heard them, we hear what they are saying, there is no what. And you came up with something about Nusumukate and the rest of it, 2007, yeah. They said Nusumukate, but it brought peace. That's the most important thing. Even this other one, handshake, it brought peace. Even now, there must be peace. And this peace is going to come from these two leaders. If it is left to their own, these hardliners and so forth, it's not going to work.
I was about to say that, Mheshimiwa, the hardliners, they seem to be the problem.
Yes, and I wanted to say something else about what Patrick is saying. You see, we have consistently been taking away authority from various sectors in this society. Right. One, we have taken authority from the elders. So that you find that the people we call the cultural leaders or the traditional leaders have been kind of silenced. And they are silenced in a very tactical manner. That you go out there and you want to say that the church should take that responsibility. Now, the church cannot perform that. It cannot be the Church of Christ or Mohammedan organization. And you are telling them again to supervise traditions and customs. They cannot. Number two is that you cannot take elders' responsibility to give it to a ward representative. It is not possible. And therefore, at this particular point in time, when we know that these two are quarreling, it is the time for the elders from every corner in this country to come up. If we are talking about Western Province, the elders in Western Province should be able to provide some mature direction. Those that come from Mountain Kenya, the same, because none of us wants to be hurt. At the same time, it is possible, Jeff, that there could be a conspiracy here. And you never know where the conspiracy is engineered or developed. Meaning that there could be a group in this country that is working a way to eliminate others. For example, when a whole community is represented by people who just thumb themselves, they are hated by their own people. They are disliked by the rest of the nation. If they are the ones representing your community, then you are left without any voice. Meaning that the other side could be very happy that we are eliminating those fellows so that by the time they get to where they want, then a certain community is not part of it. What I am saying myself is this. We are now at 60 years. Yeah. At these 60 years, we would want to see, that is 2 generations, man. We would like to see there is change so that the grandchildren of Raila Odinga and maybe the children of Ruto can be able to say, my dad did something to get this nation built correctly. If there are things that have been wrong in the past, rectify them. And they have got the opportunity to do that. Now, if they continue to talking like sometimes young people who have hurt themselves in small little games, then we are going to think, oh, were we wrong, by the way, by believing that these people could do it? You know? Yeah. And that is the way they should do it. Put a mirror in your bedroom and in your corridors. Look at yourself as you walk out to the nation and ask yourself this question: what is this figure going to be doing to this country today? Don't walk out to war and fight because you provoke me and I will still be thinking about your friends on the street and we start fighting.
Absolutely.
Number one, and I stop there. Yeah. And the thing is here, when you are talking about by partnership, what I think is happening is that the president would not want to escalate the discussions from the ODM, UDA to others, for whatever reason he has. Then if that is the case, let him himself and Raila, if they have not set to start talking, Then Raila, Ruto talk. They agree or don't agree on something. Let them fall to their lieutenants. Let them talk. And after that, expand it to us so that we know that you have laid the ground, you have laid the foundation, but don't throw words at each other because they make no sense at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Waziri, you were talking about 1992. Takes me back, when Section 2A was repealed and you guys were on the ground. 31 years later. Have we moved on? Have we improved? Have we developed?
Jeff, we have a major problem in this country. We do not have a nation called Kenya. And that's why we talk of Kikuyu nation, Luya nation, Luo nation, that nation. The day the leaders of this country will start saying to themselves, we shall behave like Julius Nyerere. We shall behave like Mandela. So that we create a Kenyan nation, our problems will go. From 1992, we had a cause, and our only cause was Section 2A. We want to return multipartyism. We did not think beyond that. Right. Once we got our multipartyism, we retreated into our little nations.
Cocoons.
Cocoons or
Yes.
whatever, little nations.
Yes.
Because when we started in 1992, Matiba, Masinde Mliro, Jaramogi, Bamaris, they were thinking as Kenyans. And they made us young people, whom by then we were nicknamed Young Turks. Yeah. We were carrying briefcases for these old men. We also started thinking as a nation. But once we got Section 2A, we retreated because we did not see beyond that. In fact, as soon as Section 2A came, the Kikuyu nation wanted their president in Matiba. The Luo nation wanted their president in Jaramogi. The Luya nation wanted their president in Masinde, and so on and so forth, because we did not think beyond that. And therefore, the mistakes we made at that time are haunting us 31 years later. We are now still behaving as the little nations and not as a Kenyan nation. Yeah. When our leaders, and I think this crisis has given us an opportunity where Raila and Ruto can actually sit together like de Klerk and Mandela sat and say, can we resolve some of these issues so that we can create a Kenyan nation?
Yeah.
Sorry, before
go on.
Before maybe Patrick comes, because of this very important point, sir, is this, that 1992 was a very classic period that should be quoted here. That immediately after the elections, the next thing that happened was that the president and his government went out deliberately recruiting and paying members of parliament and the leaders of their parties to cross over to the KANU side. This has happened this year or last year, which must not be encouraged, that today we have got about 30 members of the Jubilee Party, members of parliament, crossing over to the other for whatever reason. They have never told us what reason there was, but they just crossed over. And then they even closed the offices, right? Why? Because those that were involved in signature and water view for the bank were taken away by that system. Now, we want to say this here, that it is not correct, it is not political leadership, it is not governance that you supervise the death of other political parties. It is not fair to go buying a human being for them to cross over, because it demoralizes the rest of the communities and it creates a dishumanity in yourself who is doing it, because you are using Kenyan resources to buy Kenyans to your side. And that should be discouraged, not only by the government, by any political party that is recruiting, because that way you cannot build a democracy, number one. Number two is that you will observe that a lot of leaders have been to political parties, not a political party. From 1992, some of them have been to as many as 12 political parties. Others have formed political parties every electoral season, right? And they still say our political party is national. No, it is not national. It's very thin.
Tribal.
You know, it is so tribal that, and it makes you so simple, you know, to the minds of the world and Democrats, that you cannot be able to sustain an idea or an ideology. Kazi yako ni kurukaruka tu viunzi in politics. You know, it's terrible.
It's nonsense.
Nonsense.
Mheshimiwa,
Yep.
you were in Parliament from 97 to 07.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
When you look at today's Parliament, what do you see? Be honest.
I want to be very, very honest that during our times, we went through a very short time of looking for votes. In fact, it was only 3 weeks, not more than 3 weeks. Within those 3 weeks, from 6 o'clock in the morning up to 6 p.m., you had the vehicles, you went around, showed your ideas, and then the election is done within 3 weeks and end of it. Now these days I see things myself. And it's good to told me I see things myself. I see a guy, he wants to be a member of parliament somewhere in the central, even where I come from. He comes only about 2 weeks. He comes with a helicopter. He fools the people. I am so rich, I own this helicopter. Where he lands, there are lorry roads of unga packets, and everybody is given 2 packets of unga, plus 200 shillings kitoyo. A mammoth of people, thousands and thousands. They go out chanting the name of that person. They do not even know where he comes from. They don't know his home, and he's elected. Those are the kind of people we have in the parliament. And that is the truth of the matter. So they are there to ensure that they return what they spent. So they are there for themselves, and they don't care. This is the kind of parliament where you go to have a lot of money to be elected, and within those 5 years, then you have your returns. So this parliament, when it so that it can sort out the problem that in this country, I say is zero. Why I'm saying that is that it is true that even 2007, 213, when Raila, the kind of problems we have now were not there. As Gadangu says, and everybody agrees, the price of food is very high. Education, a lot of children are out of school. Everything is gone up. The cost of living, the fuel, everything is gone up. There are problems, enormous problems in this country. When this government took over, they promised to get rid of all those problems within 100 days, and it's not working. So Raila comes and says, these things are not going well. People are listening, that things are not going well. And my fear is that the parliament is not coming out with any solution whatsoever. The government is not coming out with any solution. In return, it is thumb chasing. I laugh at, and we know things, that when someone stands up and says that, Uhuru is sponsoring demonstrations, Raida's demonstrations. I would like to tell them that Raida is a master of demonstrations. We started with him many years back. He was with Akena Matiba. It is an act of defiance that things are not going well. You go out to protest because you are angry, and this is the situation. So when somebody says that Raida is sponsoring, no, Uhuru is sponsoring Raida's demonstrations, there's a question I'd like to pose to that person. Raida had demonstrations against Uhuru. Who was sponsoring Raida then? Who was giving Raida money then? Is it Uhuru to say against him? So it all becomes ridiculous. Their answers are totally ridiculous. Now, people are likely to go back to the streets. And I'm sorry this is going to happen. I see it happening. And you know why? The government is not responding to people's needs. The problems out there with the people, they are not doing it. They are not listening. Yeah. Instead of doing that, it is counter-accusations, like the ones I'm talking about. Who responds to demonstrations? We are going to do that. We are going to do that. We are sons of Mau Maus. Jeff, I know your grandfather was a great, great freedom fighter.
Yeah.
It is in the record.
Yes.
Even during Mau Mau's times, most of the guns were in your grandfather's house.
Correct.
But the colonial government will not go there. They were afraid of your ex-senior chief.
Yes.
They were afraid.
Correct.
I have read that history myself, and I know it. As I grew up myself, my father was detained. And now I'm an old man. So the ones who are talking about Mau Mau, Jeff, I would like to tell you, and it is true, they do not even know what is Mau Mau.
Wow.
They don't know what is Mau Mau. So when they say they are sons of Mau Mau, and we are going to take somebody's land, Jomo Kenyatta himself was accused by the colonials of managing Mau Mau. He was a Mau Mau. Yet you want to take his land because we are... So why didn't your grandfather want to take land? You know, so it's ridiculous. So these people must wake up. And Ruto himself, Jeff, and these people, we will crush the media, we will do what, we will finish you, we are not afraid of you, we are hurt, you are what. How does it help the problem that in this country? So they are giving Raila a great mileage in all this, in what is happening, because the government should forget about the past. It should wake up and say, okay, we took over the government, let's not keep on looking back at we inherited from... Why did you take over the government? You campaigned for it. You said you are rid of this problem. Yet you are not doing... And when you cannot, you are blaming the previous regime. Or this regime did that and so forth. This Jeff is not helping. It's not helping in the Mwananchi and the rest of it. Let me tell you what's happening in Gaturu, not because I'm told. Houses are being broken into. You know what people are stealing? Unga in the house, food in the house. You can't leave almost arrive by banana in the shop. It's gone. It's gone. Cattle and so forth. So people do not know what people are feeling inside. Then the projects that were started by Uhuru, they are saying, no, we abandon that. We took off this one. This was not because of that and so forth. We cannot live with these people always blaming and blaming and blaming and blaming. No, Jeff, my father was detained. If my father had died in detention, I would not even have known him because I was too young. But he came back. I was there, saw him for the first time. He took over. He was arrested by his own elder brother, who was a tribe, you call them TP, tribal police, TP. His own brother arrested my father. Later on, when I grew up, I asked my father, tell me, you like your brother so much. But he's the one who arrested you and put to detention, leaving us alone to suffer. My father told me, look, he was wiser than me. He knew if I'm left with the home guards, they will kill me as they were killing other people. He took me to detention because he knew it was safer for me to be there. And when Kenyatta then took over, he said, let us forget and let us move on. Because you see, the Kikuyus were against another Kikuyu. The terror was between a brother to brother during the Mau Mau days. They were killing one another. People in the forest, Jeff, you know that they are very, very few. There are very few terrorists. Most of the Kikuyu people are detained in detentions. We ourselves, we lived in the villages. We are also detainees. Almost everyone was detained in the Central Province during the colonial days. But when Kenyatta came, he said, let us forget all these kind of things. So Ruto and his group should not always live in the past. That Uhuru did this, with the anger.
Yeah.
Gachagua says, I was arrested. Jeff, we too were arrested.
Sure.
Kanangu here was arrested for a long time.
Absolutely.
Me myself had a case in Satan that lasted for many, many, many years. This government should now not live in anger anymore. They should move forward and tackle the Kenya's problem because there are many. There are many. They should not always bend that we inherited this, we inherited that, we inherited that. Look.
Waziri, do you agree? Do you agree?
I have difficulties. When we start politics of Mau Mau, and I will start politics of Dinia Misambwa. I don't think that helps this country at all. That kind of politics. Who was detained 60 years later? We will not create a nation. And that's what I was talking about earlier on, Jeff. So I have difficulties, whether from Patrick or from anybody else, when we start these narrow arguments about what happened to so and so and so and so. Please, let us talk about a country called Kenya. And let us say what is the solution, not to behave like we behaved with the Dinia Msambwa or you behaved with. We have a nation to create.
Yeah.
And time, we have wasted a lot of time. We have wasted 60 years. When we got independence, we had Nyerere, our next door neighbor, who took a certain route. And we had Jomo Kenyatta, who took another route. The Jomo Kenyatta route did not give us a nation called Kenya. The Nyerere route gave Tanzanians a nation. And we have lost 60 years. And Kadang said earlier on, maybe elders in this country, maybe we should look for ourselves from all over Kenya, wherever we are, those who think we are can call themselves elders, and we get together and seriously discuss what makes this nation sick.
Absolutely.
Because if we just take the political line alone, it is self-interest all the time. And therefore, there will be nobody worrying about Kenya and the nation. And that's my problem.
Yeah.
It's only this, Jeff, that I have heard what Patrick said and what Muskari is saying. Both of them, I think, are correct. Because what Patrick is saying is that people should not come here to tell us they were Mau Maus. Because when you tell me you are Mau Mau, and I remember I was, and my father was, and I have served so much in prison, it kind of provokes me, to react to whatever you are saying. And one time before they broke into that farm, before the farm was attacked, that same weekend, they said, look, sisi watatu ni watu wa Mau Mau, na watatuona.
That's what I'm saying.
That should be discouraged in this country. And then the other point that I think he is bringing in, which I think is important, is that governments are perpetual, so that the colonial government in 1920 is as responsible as Kenyatta's government was in 1965. And Moi's government is just as responsible for whatever has been happening in Kenya, just like both Kenyatta and so forth and so forth and so forth. Now that this government has been elected, they must agree that whatever problem that has been caused by past governments, they have opportunity now. They can change. They can rectify. But they cannot get out there and winning that, isipokuwa ni fulani. No. You have got the authorities, you have got the tools, you have got the implements. Use them and change the status. That, I think, is what Patrick is saying. But also, I believe in this, that every community in this country is an established family. so that when we go to Western Province, we are taking the Luhya community as one, and they are able to say, our sons and daughters are so and so, represent us in this and that manner. Don't go there causing trouble. In the mountain Kenya region, which has been devastated, by the way, and I dare say this, it appears like the non-Mount Kenyan communities are very happy when Mountain Kenya community has no voice. You know, I don't support the tribes and the ethnic groupings, but I have to remember every time that I belong to my mother, and my mother has got relatives, and if they are under attack, surely I should come and say, look, hey, don't touch my mother, don't touch my aunties, don't touch my community, and so forth. Now that I have seen the direction that the Kenyan communities are taking to try to isolate Mount Kenya, to try to zimmer their voices, to try to make sure that their leaders are nonsense and meaningless, then I'm also provoked again to say, no. I cannot get to a point where you vanquish my communities and think that therefore I'm following a good group. No, I have got to go out there and save them. And then the next thing that I want to advise is this, Muskari Kombo. If you people want a country that is going to be proclaiming unity, then we must have the elders we are talking about. For example, I said earlier that we have got about 200 retired members of parliament. Where are they? Does Kenya care about where they are? They are leaders of the past and they are their own following. They have a history and a legacy. What is it that stops this government or anybody else to say, let these people come together and give us some thought about why we are quarreling here and how we can finish it? In fact, tonight I think it is important because here we have got Kombo, who was our minister. We have got Patrick, who was our assistant minister. Why can't we start it even here and say, next meeting after the Easter will be for the former members of parliament to come and talk about the state of the nation, you know.
Absolutely.
And from there, we can get a few leaders from every cultural grouping. That is the Meru, Njorinjeke, the Gikuyu, Kiama, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Three people, to join these elders and say, look, this is what resolve we think we should have. Now we have Kombo and we have so and so. So go and see the president, and you go and see Raila Odinga, and then after that, let's have that meeting.
Waziri, the onus is on you. It's on you. He's just nailed it.
But I've just proposed.
He's just proposed.
Yes.
I think I said earlier on, it's a very, very good proposal. And I honestly, but before I go there, let me talk about this invasion of the Uhuru Shamba.
Northlands, yeah.
Yeah. I was very angry myself. Not because I come from Mount Kenya, but as a man who still believes that we have a country which we can actually, it has a constitution, and within our constitution, a title deed is sacrosanct, is absolutely recognized. And therefore, because Uhuru's family has got that title deed, don't tamper with it at all. And I can tell you here, I did phone a number of leaders on that issue and say, this cannot happen. This cannot happen. I'm not going to name them, but a number of them said, you are right. It cannot happen. So it is something that has got to be condemned by everybody of goodwill.
Yeah.
Because there are many, and that's not the only family that has got huge tracts of land. You know, there are many families with huge tracts of land. And if we start going that way, then we got the Zimbabwean route. And it's not right. And having said that, again, something which I say also quietly, and I say, these families with huge tracts of land, let them hear us and one day come together and say, hold on, we are going to give away this and that and that and that, because there's only so much that one individual can have. I'm enjoying my retired life from Parliament, and I've realized this good life after Parliament.
It's a good life.
I enjoy
Jeff.
I enjoy my golfing.
Yeah.
Twice a week, I play my golf. I enjoy sitting with my grandchildren, watching football. Like today with my new playing and my new fan, and you are keeping me here.
Jeff.
Don't worry, they'll lose anyway.
I'm finishing. And I really enjoy that. I visit my families overseas. I have a family in Europe, I have a family in US, I have a family in...
It's a good life.
Yeah, it's a good life. So I enjoy that life very much. And what I would like to say, that as an individual, there's only that much you can hold on.
Absolutely. Mheshimiwa, you want to say
Thank
something?
you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, let's not just presume that it's just Kenyatta family who owns land in Kenya. Very, very many people do own large chunks of land
that's what I
in
said.
Kenya.
Yeah.
If you go to Asingishu, Kibor, Great Kibor, thousands of acres.
Yeah.
Many of them. If you go to Laikipia, you find Europeans, they own as much as 700,000 acres of land. So now it's not just Kenyatta family that owns land.
I agree.
So, Jeff, let's look at the problem that is facing the country now, because that is what is most important. The economy is in chaos. The dollar itself, you know why it is.
Yeah.
People are hungry, there is no food. As I told you earlier, what's happening in the countryside. Right Honorable Raila is saying, get subsidies to reduce the price of common foods for the common people. Say that problem we sorted out. Ruto is saying that problem we sorted out in the parliament. I've no faith in that parliament myself, and so is Raila and Martha Karua. So what is the way forward? There is only one way forward, Jeff. The government itself must come up with these solutions. They must not always be attacking Raila, like somebody is saying you are old, nobody wants you to die. Forgetting that death is a gift to everybody. You can die young, you can die old, you can die old. So let the government come out, Jeff, and sort out these problems without blaming other people and the rest of it. When they come to the demonstrations, we have heard them before. Let the people demonstrate. It is their right to do that. If the police decide we will be fighting these people, their own people, a war between the police and the people themselves, how long will it continue and for how long? This is the big question that the government come out and get a solution over it, because you don't want Kenyans fighting with each other and with the police and the rest of it. Because that is the only way forward. And the way forward is for President Ruto, not to listen to his hardliners. We are swearing it is Nusumukate. I am positive Raila doesn't want Nusumukate or anything. He has said he doesn't want that, and I'm sure he means well for this country. And so is Martha Karua. Jeff, let me ask you something. If Raila was not there, and Akina Martha Karua, Akina Kalonzo and the rest of it, who would be talking against all these things that are not going well in this country? That is making the common person suffer, sleep hungry. They are doing it for the common good of the common person. Let President Ruto listen, come out with the solution. They sit down together, they work it out for the good of this country.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm asking them.
Sure. Waziri, let me ask you this. You were talking about Jaramogi, Oginga Odinga, you're talking about Kenneth Matiba, you're talking about Masinde Muliro. the old guard, if they were alive today, what would they think?
I think they would be shocked at what is happening. Because those people were Kenyans. Those people believed in the sanctity of life. Those people did not want anybody to die. And those people were ready and willing to talk to each other. Masinda Mliro once said to me, or to us, the young men around him, although Moi is behaving this way, I am going to find a way to talk to him. In other words, it was not enmity. It was finding solutions to problems of the country. And that's what those old men, if they lived today, if they were here today, they would be saying to us, young men, can you find a solution to these problems?
Yeah.
Can you talk to each other? Don't take hard lines, go into the trenches, because the minute you go into the trenches, then you are saying, let us fight. And when you fight, unfortunately, the generals or the politicians declare wars, ask the generals to take their soldiers to the war front, and it is those soldiers who get killed, not the politicians and not the generals. It is those soldiers. And so the people we are taking into the streets are the ones going to be killed. And those old men would not have liked to see such a situation.
Absolutely. The way forward. Go on.
Of course, you cannot have an army that will not expect death.
Yeah.
And number two, it will be very difficult, extremely difficult, to be a character that can sacrifice for your people without thinking about your own life and losing it.
How many of these politicians are willing to give up their lives?
There is
Zero.
no politician that wants to give up life because they are selfish, they are greedy, and they don't see anything else on earth other than themselves. Yeah. In fact, one thing that I am very worried about is when people think about food, you know, the fellow that goes and pays 5,000 shillings a plate, and the fellow that goes and eats 150 a plate are eating the same thing. One potato, one tomato, some few peas, one carrot, and so forth, 200 bob. But the other one is paying 5,000. If we want justice in this thing, somebody somewhere has to sacrifice to bring that down. Yeah. But there is something I want to say, Jeff, that a country or society is predicated on hope. That anybody who is a politician today must have created some hope in the people that elected them, including those who elected the president here, right? He must have given people hope that when I get in there, it will be and. Where has that tactic gone? You need to keep people's hope alive. That is said by Jesse Jackson. He said, although I have lost the nomination to this man, but all my followers keep hope alive. And I would like to hear Ruto say that to Kenyans. For you to keep hope alive, I would like you to, one of the things is that we are going to be talking and dialoguing on this issue with the parliament and the elders. Number two, because he is not preserve of intelligence. No, there are people that can share with him some little ideas. Yeah. And out of that, he gets solution. So what I am saying is this, that Ruto has got a big opportunity. First of all, he's still a young man. Don't be in a hurry, Ruto. You know, you are a young man. You are the president of the republic. You could be elected for very many times. Don't think about changing the constitution because the people so decided. Let it be there. And some of the people talking to you, and we can see and we can hear them. They are saying, change the constitution so that we can. No. Constitutions have been changed. People became violent. And in the end, a lot of Kenyans died for no reason. Let it not happen now. And lastly is this. What is it that Raila is asking that you can't do?
Yeah.
Actually, what is it that we are asking that cannot be done? Even me, if I said I want this and that, if you can do it, do it. You know, that bring the unga down. Oh. Whatever, how, that you can talk to him also, give him an idea, you know, bring the unga down.
How?
And one of the ways to bring the unga down is this.
Let him talk.
Why do you want, my friend, why do you want to give members of parliament extra money for CDF when the country is killing itself with bandits, when the country is dying of hunger, when the country cannot be able to go to hospitals? And so forth, and you want to give members of parliament extra money to go and squander it there simply because of 2027. That money should have been given to the Unga people for subsidies. Secondly, you have appointed the CASs. Nobody told him to appoint them. We did not go demonstrating for the CAS to be employed, and he has employed multimillionaires. Not even people to go and buy unga. It's people to go and pour it, you know, because they have got enough of it. And that is money for unga, you know. What we are saying is this, let's not squander ourselves, you know. I am here, Muskari Kombo, because I'm committed to that cause. I know you are also committed to that cause. But let us address the needs of our communities and society, so that in the end, we are actually putting the people into a life they can call sustainable life. And it is not asking too much. Is it correct, for example, to have 2 million young people following Raila's cars because they are available? There is nothing they are doing. If they had some little jobs, they will not be there. In fact, their presence is a projection of weakness for our government. You know, they should be asking ourselves, how do we put these people to work? And they will not be out there for demonstrations. And when they are working, we will not be looking for subsidies for unga. They won't be buying, right? And so there are so many ways we can do these things, but we cannot do it and make proposals at this interview and discussion, because there are other ways and methods that we can be able to have a complete discussion that can be digested by everybody and make sure that things are working.
Absolutely. Yes. Gentlemen, let me ask you real quick before we wind up. You were all elected in your various constituencies, right?
Yes.
The IEBC of your time, was it a problem as it has been the last 3-4 elections?
It has always been. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It has always been. Before that, the IBC was the PC, or the District Commission.
Right, or DO.
Or the DO.
Yes.
And that was,
were the returning officers.
Yeah. Today, I have a back problem because I was sitting in a counting hall. Masinda Mliro got 13,000 votes. His opponent got 3,000 votes. And the DC stood up and announced 13,000 to the opponent. And I jumped to get so angry. I just wanted to maybe kill somebody.
Yes.
But I fell down and my back. So these problems have existed all the time. And I personally think IBC, Kivuitu time, Hassan.
Isaac Hassan, yeah.
Isaac Hassan, and now
Our friend,
what is his name? Chebukati. We create them as the politicians. Those are our creations. And when we create them, we don't follow the Constitution. and which has laid down how things should be done. We don't do it because Kathangu wants his share of IBC, Kombo wants his share of IBC, and if he has a share, I have a share, it is not an independent body.
No.
It will always be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to add on that. But I can say myself that when I was elected, after the election, I had only 10 shillings in my pocket.
10 shillings.
I had spent 90,000 only, and 26,000 was paid by my salary in Parliament because it was in debt. So I had actually spent something like 60,000. What I want to say is this, that the conspiracies I'm talking about are the ones that kind of spoil our institutions. You know, who do we have there? Now, to answer that question, then somebody must favor somebody, right? We want so and so.
Yeah.
So, crook, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that is what spoils. But if the politicians do not go to the IEBC to talk about who is our preference, it will not happen. It didn't happen in Runyenjes. Yeah. You know, nobody came to assist me, and the people said, we are electing Kathangu now. You know, we want to see another kufanya nini huko. So with that 90,000 shillings, I was in Parliament.
90,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Jeff.
But in the morning, I could walk without a cup of tea, tempo bottling.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
The IEBC, the problem, as I saw, was with the Kivuitu. I saw it in the KICC. People trying even to snatch files from Kivuitu to announce the winners, and it was terribly chaotic. There were no policemen there. The other one was in 2007, and the case was followed, and the people died, many of them. Now, Chebukati, what we hear, things like servers, we are hearing them now to be opened. The margin was too thin, 200,000. Voters of a constituency was the margin of that, the winning margin, only 200,000. So there's a question all the time. And then you hear some other kids disappeared somewhere and the rest of it. So there's a lot of questions about the last elections by Chebukati. Questions that are not even answerable. So there's a problem with IEBC. And I think Right has a point when he says, we can't have this kind of a thing.
Yeah, so
now,
what needs to happen, though? What needs to happen?
Exactly.
What needs to happen, I go with, that the political parties, just as happened during Kibaki's time, the political parties, depending on their strength, have themselves appoint their representatives during the elections. The political parties, depending on their strength, have a say in who is going to represent.
Waziri, you disagree?
Yeah,
You disagree?
I would like to see an independent IEBC.
Can it be? Can there be, like you said?
No, but
it can never be.
Let me say, I would like to see a body, people going there, nominated by an independent body. Yeah?
The IEBC.
Go on, finish.
That's what I would like to see. Because so long as the political parties are appointing people to be members of IEBC, it cannot be called independent.
It's biased.
It's who pays the
It's not, I can't call it bias, Jeff. I would say this way. When a political party has got his own appointee and another one, and there's already checks and the balances within that IEBC.
I know we can debate.
There's imbalance. Everybody is now, if it is DP, they are looking at it. If it is SDP, they are looking at it. So there's accountability. People are watching. Is my party going? Are my votes going to? Are my party votes going to be interfered with, especially presidential votes? But when you have somebody nominated by the churches, the kind of churches we have, that group, and the other group, and the other group, you purely agree with the Raila, that you are purely having the president have his own, all of it, all of it. So let me come to another point, Jeff. When it comes to institutions, we created institutions so that they can be dependent and be their own. They can make their own decisions and decisions alone.
Yeah.
But you find that a lot of these institutions, like the DPP, a lot of interference. In his own admission, I was coerced, I was ordered, I was that. So that line of it, even now, people are arrested during the demonstrations, and he is told to withdraw the charges. It doesn't go like that. Let the cases continue. Some of the murder cases have been withdrawn. Murder cases have been withdrawn. And murder is a capital offense. That's when people are killing one another for money, for whatever reason. So we have lost sight of ourselves. There's a rule of law, I think, for the rich and for the poor and the rest of it. But coming back to the point why you brought us here about the future of this country, Jeff, is very simple. The government must answer to Raila's demands. Because Raila's demands are the people's demands.
And if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, then the consequences will be bad.
I think
back to the streets.
That's not the reason why I came here.
Oh, I'm talking for myself, not about you.
I think exactly. Because if we take ourselves as elders, we have also got to take a certain position where we do not take sides. Because when your children are quarreling and you take side that I belong, this is a better child than this one, how do you bring them together? For me, I came here so that we can discuss and tell Kenyan leaders that the way forward is to talk to each other. The way forward, whether these demands are right or wrong, none of us can tell. I don't think, or at least in my position, I don't know what's right. But if they talk to each other, they will be able to understand who these demands and why it cannot be done, and so on and so forth. And that way you find a solution. Yep. That's why I came here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gentlemen, let's go to the magic wall. I'll give you a chance in a little short while. Okay. There's a lot of reactions coming from across the country, across the world. Let's get some reactions here on Twitter. Nyantika Chester says, Kenyan politics has heavily been monetized, and that partly explains why some Kenyans with dubious and funny traits find their way into leadership positions. Such wasn't much the case during the time of your trio of guests who served as MPs. You were saying 90,000 shillings.
Yeah. Only.
Right? Yeah. 90,000. Yeah. Today you can't tell where these people come from.
Exactly.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Okello Mwalimu says, can the veteran politicians opinionate on roadmap to permanent resolutions to perennial political unrest after every election?
Yeah.
In their considered and balanced opinion, should a president who's eyeing a second term be allowed to play a pivotal role in reconstituting the polls body? Wow, very interesting. Waziri, what do you say? Why is it perennially we get, at the end of an election and there's violence and there's chaos and there's madness? Why?
I think the gentleman there has a point, that we have these perennial problems because we do not believe in the process. When the election takes place, we have no faith in that process.
Correct.
And that's why we have all these problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though they say before, I will accept defeat.
Yes, but exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The moment they're defeated.
Yeah.
All right. Good point. Good point, Okello Mwalimu. Thank you for that. J.W. Mungai says, ask these elders, don't they feel the current Ruto government needs more time than the 6 months they have been in power? Mheshimiwa, what do you think?
Why? He said 100 days.
Yeah, but 100 days is,
100 days, within 100 days, some of it he said, by the time I put the Bible down, and then 100 days. Now they got, how many days now?
What do you think? Do you think they should be given time?
The issue is this. It should not be the people to propose addition of time to the president or to the government. It is the government itself that should be telling us that they would want more time because of A.
But they have been asking, they have been saying, give us time.
They have said.
Yes.
They have said, give us time, but very incoherently. Incoherent in this manner, that they are not telling us what they want to do. So in fact, if people do not have proposals and suggestions about what they want to do, of the things that they understand it, which manifestos they are already given, it simply means that if we are going to give them time, they will be benefiting from something they don't need. And therefore, according to me, is that we need a comprehensive request, political request, because it is nothing else. Political request by the president to say, my people, I have encountered A, B, and C problem. And that problem can only be sorted out if you give us time to consult further.
What do you say?
Jeff, this mythical 100 days is a political gimmick which was borrowed from the US, and people start parroting it without really thinking. Because 100 days, you are elected, you need to put machinery in place. That putting machinery in place itself will take you more than 100 days before you start operating. So my advice to politicians and future leaders, don't parrot this kind of things and which don't make sense at all.
Absolutely. And they're unsustainable too. Yeah. Babu Michael K.E. says, it'll be sad to revert back to protests soon. Two sides which were expected to interact in the so-called bipartisan talks are now in a blame game, and no meaningful and constructive talks are going on. Who is fooling who?
They are fooling
both sides know each other. So I mean, they are playing cards.
Yeah. Someone by the name of Flat Screen says, what an old man sees while seated cannot be seen by a young man even on top of a tree. The three old men are honest, straightforward, and forthright. The stalemate obtaining can only be unlocked by Ruto and Raila. Kenya needs peace.
Correct.
Kenya needs peace. Gentlemen, you have 2 minutes each, concluding points. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa. Mururi, go ahead.
I want to thank you, Jeff, for hosting us here. And last time I had interviews with you was some times back, when I lost my son.
I remember,
To the James Mururi, and I was terribly wounded, and I still mourn him. And I've been leading a quiet life. But that does not mean that we are not seeing what is happening in this country. And it is a very, very sad affair. I want to reiterate again that there are problems in this country. And I don't see the problems being sorted out in the parliament. Right now, Raila Odinga has a big, big following. Ruto is the president. With what is going on, as this man says, it is up to them to sit down and don't leave it to the hardliners of parliament to sort these problems out. Kenyans, Jeff, by nature are violent people. You can tell it from the colonial days. Even what is happening in some places like Pokot, Turkana, and so forth, Kenyans are violent people. And I have seen it myself during the demonstrations, and we are seeing it. So we don't want to get to a point whereby Kenyans will go back to the streets violently, because you cannot avoid the violence and the rest of it. So to save this country, Jeff, and I want to repeat again, that it is up to President Ruto himself to sit down with the Raila personally, how some people from outside the parliament, let Raila nominate his group, President Ruto nominate his group, they go to a place, they have all the time, and then they sort it out, these matters out. Otherwise, we might have anarchy in Kenya, because Kenyans by nature, Jeff, are violent. I've traveled. If you go to Tanzania, You don't fight people fighting. But in Kenya, on the streets of Nairobi, you see people fighting over small things, money, they even killing. So Kenyans are deadly animals kind of people. They must be tamed. That this situation, Jeff, is likely can bring bloodshed and can bring this country into terrible chaos. What happened in Uhuru's farm and the rest of it is that it can also extend. I was reading a paper here just before I came here that already there are some people in Naivasha who are invading large-scale farms. This kind of a situation can be terribly bad and must be avoided. Again, Jeff, our own people, especially leaders from our own community, when the kinds of words and the kinds of words that they utter, let them weigh their words and the consequences of what they are likely to be, because they are not careful during their threats when they are referring to other people or situations. Let them know that Kenyans, that is dangerous. It's dangerous and terribly dangerous.
Absolutely.
Let them cool down.
Okay.
You see, we have young people that I said like the leader in Kiabu now, Mheshimiwa Ishungwa, a young man I highly respect. And I like him. He will always pick up the phone and so forth. And he's now the leader of Kiabu, the leader of majority in parliament. He's got a great future, a great future. We'll be talking to him that his future, we don't want his future to be jeopardized because not just now, he's got to look at a bigger picture. And we'll be talking to him because I like him. He found me now when he came. So we'll be talking to them. So we as elders here, we have also a responsibility to talk to them. Because if you see somebody under you, somebody you have known, out of the way, talk to him.
Absolutely.
Talk to him.
Yes.
That's the way forward.
Sure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Wazir, I'll leave you for the final word. Mheshimiwa, you go first.
I think what basically we are saying as a group here is that we have an opportunity, one, for our leaders to appreciate that Kenyans have for a long time been deprived of their voice, deprived of economic empowerment, deprived, and every Kenyan understands what it means. Like I was saying, if you have got about 2 million people in Nairobi free and available for all the meetings that they call, the opposition calls, 1 million people are there. The government calls, 1 million people are there. It means that these people are not busy. And I think it is important today for the government to initiate programs that are going to relieve our young people of idleness. When they are not idle, then they cannot be called to participate in the things that we are talking about. Nevertheless, because of that deprivation, we must appreciate as leaders and elders that there is no way you can hold the anger, temper of a young person that has been denied and his family denied for so long. I have been in this city, Jeff, for a long time. I owned some few little businesses around some of the slums. And some young people would be told by their mother, sasa watoto wa mama yako watakula nini? And when you're asking a 16-year-old, 19-year-old that question, what the young man does, he picks a knife, goes to the nearest kiosk, and somebody coming to buy unga, anamdunga kisu. Anachukua ile pesa ako naye, he goes to the next kiosk and buys there. If that is the young person we are talking about today, then we have lost it. Meaning there is going to be war that Kariuki is talking about here on the streets of Nairobi out of nothing because people have got reason to fight. Yeah. And therefore when there is a rallying call that your mother can be relieved of that problem if we demonstrate and tomorrow, then they will all come. And that should worry the president and his government, that instead of having that young man's problem addressed, na wewe unasimama kupiga kifua, mfanye hivyo munione. No, they don't care about it. There is nothing they will lose. Yeah. In fact, maybe they will land in comfort, because death, I'm told, you never suffer after that.
Wazir, you get the last word.
Jeff, democracy is never perfect, but it is better than anarchy. Kenya has taken the route since 1992 of following the democratic process of multipartyism. We must respect it. We have taken the route of saying we shall have an independent judiciary. We may have issues with it, but we must respect it. We have said parliament, in fact, I and Ringo and this man, we fought very hard to make parliament independent because it was under the thumb of President Moi. And we succeeded in releasing parliament. When Kibaki was in power, parliament remained independent and fairly did its job. I think President Uhuru brought parliament back to his thumb. President Ruto is bringing parliament to his thumb. No, we must respect those institutions. As I said, democracy is not perfect, but it's better than anarchy. Number two, this country's crisis is something that people don't talk about often, which I have lived and talked about all my life, is corruption.
Yep.
Until we get leadership that is prepared to fight corruption, all these demands we are making, we shall not make enough money to bring UNGA down because we shall spend our money into corrupt things, and so on. When Uhuru brought parliament under his thumb, that's why people would die, and KEMSA, money is being stolen for hospitals in KEMSA, and parliament could not raise its finger and shout and say, there's something wrong. We must respect institutions, and we must fight corruption to the end. That kind of leadership is what will make Kenya strong. Leaders, Kenyan leaders, talk to each other.
Absolutely.
There's nothing better than facing each other face to face and talking. De Klerk and Mandela used to go what they call Bundesstraat, and they would talk to each other in the bush. So that what are our problems? Kenyan leaders talk to each other. Even in the house, you and your wife, Jeff, if you don't talk to each other, chaos.
Well put, well put. Musikari Kombo, Jeru Kathangu, Patrick Mururi. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
This has been valuable information, and I hope those who lead us are watching and listening. That's the most important thing, folks. You heard that. Leaders talk to each other. And I keep saying, let's keep talking. Because the moment we stop talking is the moment we start fighting. And you don't want to go down that slippery slope. Listen to the wise old men. Are you listening? Are you listening? Remember, JK Live is powered by APA Insurance, where you know life can be unpredictable. Accidents can happen, or unexpected illnesses can leave you with financial burdens. But with APA Insurance, you can protect what matters most to you. Whether it's your health, your car, your home, APA Insurance has you covered. Don't let unforeseen circumstances bring you down. Ensure your happiness today with APA Insurance. And here's wishing all our viewers a happy rest of the Easter week, culminating in Easter Sunday. Thanks so much for being a part of Jeff Koinange Live. Good night, good luck. God bless Kenya. Happy Easter, gentlemen.